It's that time of year again where back to school is quickly approaching, and you're probably wondering what procedures should you be teaching your kindergartners during the first week of school. Well, in this video, I'm going to share the top 5 procedures you should definitely be teaching your kindergartners during the first day of school. And in the meantime, if you're wondering which activities you should be doing and maybe a lesson or two you could teach during the first day, definitely go check out this video right here to learn more. As somebody who taught kindergarten for 3 years myself, one thing I quickly realized is that for a lot of our kindergarten students, this may be their first time in a school setting. That's why it's so important to start kindergarten off with the basics, including the first procedure, which is to raise your hand. See, like I said, this may be some students' first time in the classroom and they're not really sure how to interact with you. So as soon as they come in the morning, one of the things I recommend teaching them is how to raise their hand when they have a question or when they want to communicate with you or they have something to share. When you do this, make sure to teach them what it should look like and sound like and model what that behavior should look like and sound like. One person that I absolutely love that demonstrates this is Miss May from One Fab Teacher. She has a whole series on procedures, so definitely go check her out. I'll also link her down below. But when you are teaching a procedure, you really want to go through what it looks like, what it sounds like, even model maybe what it doesn't look like and sound like. And then I like to add this little emphasis of having a discussion afterwards as to why. Why would we want to interact this way, and helping your students kind of lead this discussion and help them get to the conclusion. So for example, a conversation about raising our hand is, maybe why would we want to raise our hand? Well, maybe because we don't want to interrupt our friends. It's rude, it's not kind when I interrupt my friends. I want to make sure everyone has a chance to speak. I don't want to interrupt anybody, stuff like that. So making sure to have those conversations with the why is really going to make sure your kids understand and stick with the procedure you put in place. The second procedure I like to teach my kids are class calls. I like to do this before we even do the read aloud that I mentioned in this video because I think it's important to have kids freeze and bring their attention back to me. Now, a question you might want to ask yourself is, how am I going to get my kids' attention? Now, class calls are a great way to do this. I personally use a variety of them, but I recommend starting out, only give your students one on that first day. That first day, they're learning a lot of different things. The last thing you want to do is to overwhelm them with a bunch of class calls. They won't have any idea what's going on. So pick one and stick with it, and then slowly start building once they get the hang of it. Now, one class call I got that was really fun, and I don't remember his name. He's an educator here on YouTube. If I find him, I'll put him in the description below. But it's the clap game where if you clap 1, 2, 3, and they do it back, then you get a point. So I can do a variety of claps and they have to do it back. So for example, if I were to be the teacher and I did this, the typical one, and then my kids do it back, and then I might do the trick one. And if they do it back, I get a point. If they don't, they get a point. It's a fun way to keep them engaged. And I like to use this as an icebreaker on the first day. But some other class calls you might use are class, class, yes, yes, hocus pocus, everybody focus, to infinity and beyond. Let it go, that's from Frozen, peanut butter jelly, Hakuna Matata, to infinity and beyond. You can use a clapping. I personally like using my Harry Potter ones. So I have Wingardium, they say Leviosa, but have fun with it. Stick with one and you can slowly start building from there. I would make sure you're practicing what it looks like and sounds like. What are you expecting your students to do when they hear a class call? Are they expected to continue talking? Do you want them freeze and having their eyes on you? And make sure to model what that is. And then also the added thing, make sure to discuss the why, because when kids know why we are acting the way they do, they are more likely to stick with it. Now, the third classroom procedure I like to use in kindergarten, especially in kindergarten, is using the restroom. Now, you may have a bathroom in your classroom or not. You may do things differently, and that's okay, but make sure in the beginning of the day to talk about what it looks like and sounds like. How do you want your students to walk to the restroom? Do they need to put a cone on their desk? I've seen some people have a Velcro where they have to put where they're at. I personally just let my kids go whenever they need because I have a classroom bathroom in my class. So the rule is as long as I'm not teaching or working with you one on one, you are always welcome to use the restroom whenever you need because the last thing I want to deal with is our accidents in the classroom. And I've had my fair share of those. But think about the flow of your classroom and how you want this to look like and sound like, and then make sure to model it for your friends. And then also model what it doesn't look like. And again, added bonus, discuss the why. I personally like to do the bathroom procedure during the scavenger hunt that I mentioned in the video about the first day of school in kindergarten. That's a great time to go through, what does it look like when we go to the restroom? What kind of walking feet or feet do we have? Do we have a bubble in our mouth? Are we talking to our friends? And then where do we put our paper towels? Are we washing our hands? If so, what song are we singing or humming to ourselves if we are going to do that? But make sure you think of all these steps and discuss it with your kids. Have them practice too. I like to have my kids go through and pretend that they are going to go towards the restroom and they practice and they model for the class what it should look like and sound like. And we discuss the why on the good way to do it and the bad way to do it and why we're going to choose the good way for it. That way we can hold them accountable later in the year. Now, the third procedure I teach in kindergarten is getting water. So before in years past, I have let students leave water bottles at their desk. However, with the use of Chromebooks and technology, I found that wasn't always the best choice, especially for those younger grades. They don't always realize where the water bottles are. I've seen some clever teachers who have zip tied stuff to their desks or their seat, but seeing as I use tables and we move around a lot, I have my kids put their water bottles in a milk crate like this one, yes, a milk crate, over by the door. For my layout, it makes sense because it's not by the student center, but I have them go put their water bottles over there. The same rule as the bathroom applies for the water bottles and getting water. You are welcome to grab water as long as I'm not teaching and another friend's not over there and I'm not working one-on-one with you, and then you are welcome to use it whenever you would like. So again, using this time to model what it should look like, sound like. I don't know what your plans are for water situation in your classroom. This may not even be a procedure you need to teach. Maybe it's refilling water bottles. Either way, make sure you think this through, and then talk about what it looks like, sounds like, what it doesn't look like, what it doesn't sound like, as well as the why we have it this way. So I personally, what I did with my kids is I talked to them about how we don't leave the water at our seat because it could spill on the floor or on our computers, and that's the last thing we want to do. The next procedure I teach in kindergarten is getting in line. Now, I like to do the read aloud at this point that I talked about in the video on the first day of school lesson for kindergarten. And then at this point, we're about to go on our scavenger hunt outside of the classroom. And this is when we practice our line and we talk about what it looks like, sounds like. Again, I know this seems like the basics, but you really need to cover this, especially for those kindergartners. You want to treat them like they've never been in school before, respectfully, but you want to show them what you're expecting of them, practice and model, and continue practicing until they get it right. Now, there's some ways you can do this. Some people like to randomly call boy, girl. Some people like to have lineup spots. I personally like to have my kids have their lineup spot, and then I actually play a transition song. Before, I used to call them by table, by color, by something to make it fun and engaging, but it kind of took time every single time to line up. Whereas if I had a transition song, the kids could just clean up what they were doing and quietly get in line in under 10 seconds. And that's ideally where I'm going. I want my kids to just naturally be able to run the classroom without me. That way, when there's a sub, they can run the classroom by themselves and they don't need supervision to do so. Some fun stuff you could do for this too, apart from doing the colors, boys versus girls, stuff like that, who's wearing what color, you can also have them get in line as animals. So get in line like an owl, just to kind of make things fun. It kind of depends on your teaching style though. Again, make sure to go over what it looks like, sounds like, what it doesn't look like, sound like. Have your kids practice on repeat, and then talk about why we are doing the things the way we are. That way they understand further and they can better memorize and remember to follow the procedures as you have them. Those are the 5 classroom procedures for a kindergarten classroom. I hope you found this video helpful. If you do, I would really appreciate if you could like it. That way I know that you like content like this. And then also I would love if you could subscribe because I have more videos coming your way about teaching in a primary classroom. Also, if you are new to teaching primary, I recommend you go check out this Ultimate Teacher Guide where I walk you through a checklist of everything you need to do to set up your classroom and the top 10 most common questions I get about teaching at a primary level. And if you haven't had a chance yet, definitely go check out the first day of kindergarten lesson. I have a ton of activities that you're more than welcome to take. I have some freebies included as well that walk you through what you could be teaching on that first day of school in kindergarten. Talk to you soon, teacher bestie. Bye.